Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this mindfulness session. My name is Lucy. I am Ellie's mum, and I am here from the Ellie's Gift Project. And this session this evening is all about, well, it's of course about mindfulness because this is why you're here. But the theme in particular is more around mindful movement. Now, I teach a lot about this on our mindfulness in grief 8-week courses that I run. And it's a wonderful topic to share about because very often when people say to me, okay, Lucy, I've tried mindfulness practices and I find it really hard to kind of sit still for a long period of time. There's a real teaching around how mindfulness means tuning in to the present moment, right? So that doesn't have to be tuning in while sitting in a static posture. It doesn't always have to be that way. Yes, people may find that the guided meditation tracks are helpful, but the practice of mindfulness isn't just about listening to guided meditation tracks. We can be mindful every day. We can tune into life as it's happening every day, every moment. It doesn't have to be about, okay, so today I'm going to do my 10-minute guided meditation. Tick, that's done for the day. What's next? Um, Mindfulness is a way of being. So it's about paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally to things as they are. And yes, through the formal guided practices, those static practices where we may be listening to somebody who is guiding us to maybe focus on our breath or focus on a sound or focus on sensations and bring our attention back when our mind wanders off. Yes, that might be a helpful practice for many people. And those guided practices are of course helpful because it's essentially training our well, it's training in concentration, training in attention. Um, when we do something over and over again, we get better at it. So we get better at being aware when we do practice the more kind of the guided static meditations. But also coupled with that, we can tune into life as it's happening. We can tune into all the different moments in our day. Um, we can bring that curiosity in. What does this feel like? How am I feeling now? Um, where do I feel this in my body? If it's a sensation or even if you're just tuning into something you can see, like now I can see fields and trees. So when I really pay attention to that, that becomes really interesting. This is mindfulness. So mindfulness doesn't have to look like a static posture. It's like what am I trying to say? It doesn't have to be static. We don't. It doesn't have to be. The practice doesn't mean that we have to sit in a position for a long period of time. We can practice mindfulness through many, many different ways, just by tuning into what we're doing in the moment. So mindful movement is a wonderful practice because it's about it's a little bit it's different than yoga in terms of there's not a set sequence or some may know this as a set asanas or asanas whatever however you want to pronounce it. um it's more about tuning into movement as it's happening, and that movement can be anything again. Now we as in terms of the training that I received around mindfulness, the Breathworks training program, we were guided through some specific movements, but that was more for the purpose of I guess illustrating how this could look. So I do have some movements I want to take you through this evening. However, if you was to go away and practice this yourself, you can do whatever movements you want to do. As long as you're tuning in to the sensation, you're tuning in, you're being curious, you're noticing what's happening. And when the mind wanders off and no doubt becomes distracted, because it will, because you're a human being having a human experience, you just bring your attention back. You bring your attention back to the movement, back to the sensations, back to your breath. Um, back to what you're noticing, and uh, and that's the practice. Before I take you through that, I just want to also just touch on the practice of mindful walking because again, it's movement. It's I do know we have many people who are not from the UK who also follow Ellie's Gift and use our resources. But for anyone in the UK at the moment, we are in summertime, or we're supposed to be in summertime. Um, I'm in the northwest, so there's been a real mix of weather at the moment, from really hot days to rainy days to thunder. It's been a whole mixed bag of stuff happening. However, the temperature is comfortable. And that means that for many of us, we are getting out a lot more, getting out whether we live somewhere green or even somewhere more built up. Um, getting out walking is much more, I guess, what's the word? Much more appealing in this kind of temperature. So mindful walking, we do have a mindful walking Ellie's Gift track, and I have asked our wonderful Shan, who manages all our socials, to share that across our channels. So if you're interested in listening to that while you're out walking, I would strongly recommend that. Mindful walking is a beautiful practice to do. Really, really supportive. It can be supportive, especially if you feel like you have a busy mind. And we all know that grief definitely stirs the mind up with lots and lots of things that coming in thick and fast. Thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past. So mindful walking can be a beautiful way just to kind of change the channel. Um, yeah, a really, really lovely, lovely practice. And also as well, just going back to the kind of we obviously during mindfulness practices, the aim isn't necessarily to relax. We're just paying attention to what's there. Sometimes what's there isn't actually very pleasant. But what can happen sometimes is that relaxation can almost be a side effect of the practice. So with some practices, and sometimes it can really feel, I like to use the word delicious. It really can. And however, even whilst it can feel delicious, it can be hard to do, especially if you're feeling restless. So mindful movement is like the alternative. It's still a practice which can still bring a sense of ease in, a sense of relaxation in, a sense of wellness in. Um, but it's not something that requires you to be absolutely, you know, sat in a rigid position. So yeah, I love mindful movement. I think it's great, and very often I'm rolling around on the floor, doing stretches, breathing, and just tuning into the sensations in my body in the moment, and it's wonderful to do. So I'd like to take you through this short practice then. If you're lying down at the moment, what I would like to ask you to do is if you can come up to a seated position, and you're probably best having your feet on the floor. So even if you're on your bed, you might want to wiggle to the edge and drop your legs down, feet firmly on the floor. Relax your arms somewhere where they feel comfortable, hands, sometimes palms facing the sky is a nice open posture. If you're already sat on a chair like I am, you may want to just uncross your legs as well. I have a terrible habit of crossing my legs while I'm sat on the chair, which is also not great for my body. And I'm going to be taking you through three different movements today. Three different movements. So, um, what I'm going to ask you to do is just to watch me first for the first couple of cycles of movements as I'm doing it. And then it might be an idea if you feel comfortable to then close your eyes. And some people do feel comfortable to close their eyes. If that's not you, then maybe lower your gaze. But the idea is that I'm going to show you first what this looks like, and then you can then adopt the same or a similar, movement yourself. But what I will also say is that if at any time this doesn't feel good, or you've got an injury and you're pushing through it, don't do something if your body's not cooperating. Okay, so remember, mindful movement can be anything that you want it to be. So I'm just taking you through to some suggested movements today, but generally it can be anything that you want it to look like. So if the movements that I show you today aren't suitable for you, it might be that from today you go away and you think about some different ones. Okay. All right. So the first movement then I'd like to show you is where we begin with our arms wrapped around our body. So this beautiful um, hugging embrace. Now this is so lovely because what it does is, first of all, it just feels lovely. It feels nice and soothing, nice and comforting. But um, this kind of movement, it can help our bodies to release some feel-good hormones, which can make us feel really, really lovely. And I'm sure you'll agree just by doing this, it just feels really supportive. So we're essentially giving ourselves a hug. And we don't often do this, probably not at all, to be honest. So the idea is that you breathe in and you feel the sensation of your arms on your body as you do this. So you breathe in through your nose. And then as you breathe out, you want to open your arms up nice and wide. And then as you breathe in, wrap your arms around your body and breathe out, open your arms up nice and wide. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Now, I'd like you just to continue doing that at your own pace, at your own rhythm, with your own breath, okay? So I'm just going to carry on myself with these movements, but you can close your eyes now if that feels comfortable. And you just want to be following your breath as best as you can. So keep your concentration on your breathing. And when your mind wanders off, which it probably will do, because that's a normal thing to happen, in a very, very kind and gentle way, bring your attention back to your breathing, to the sensations, to this moment, just to this movement. And you want to apply some effort, but not too much effort. So you're kind of aiming for that middle way. Not too much, not too little, just right in the middle. Maybe a couple more. And then when you feel ready, just relaxing your arms down, relaxing your arms down, relaxing your body, and just noticing now what it's like not to be doing that movement now. What is it like not to be moving now? Okay, so gently open your eyes if your eyes have been closed. Now, the next movement is, again, all these movements are with our hands and our, what's it, hands and arms. Yeah, that's right. So the next movement then is, so we're going to begin with our palms together. And the idea is I'm going to show you, like I said, I'm going to show you first. So you breathe in, take your arms and hands all the way up. Breathe out and then take your arms round. And as you breathe in again, you bring your arms back up. Your hands, sorry, palms back together. Breathe out, take your arms round. Breathe in, palms together. Breathe out, arms around. So you're just doing this over and over again. Now at your own pace, your own rhythm. You may want to close your eyes as you move into this movement, paying close attention to the sensations that you feel and your breath. And if your mind wanders off, which it probably will do, gently and in a very kind and compassionate way, not getting frustrated with yourself, just bring your attention back to this movement, to this moment, to your breath, to the sensations. And then maybe a couple more. And in your own time, bringing this movement to a close. Relaxing your arms down, bringing your body into that static posture again. Taking some deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And then gently opening your eyes if they've been closed. So the last movement then I want to show you um, is, so I'm going to hold my hands up just to show you first of all what I'm doing. So the idea is that you begin with closed fists, and then as you breathe in, you open the hands up like flowers, and as you breathe out, you close the hands back down again. So you're breathing in and you're breathing out, and you're breathing in and you're breathing out. Okay. So this is at your own pace, your own rhythm. I'm going to relax my hands down now onto they're actually just on my upper thighs. I've got my hands, my palms towards the sky. And again, get myself comfortable, just as you will be doing now. And you'll want to take a couple of deep breaths, allow the eyes to close or lower your gaze. And then just exactly like I've shown you, coupling up now your breath with the movements. So as you breathe in and breathe out, moving the hands, opening and closing them like flowers. I'll let you do this at your own pace and own rhythm. Remembering if the mind becomes distracted or wanders off, bring your attention, bring your concentration back to the movement, back to your breath, back to sensation. And then bringing that movement to a close, and then just resting your body, resting the eyes, resting the hands, just taking the time just to sit, noticing what it's like in the absence of that movement now. And then very, very gently allowing your eyes to open if they've been shut, letting the light in, shapes, the colours, shadows. Just spend a moment just to tune in now to how you feel. How do you feel just from doing those movements? I mean, for me, it was, I feel much um, calmer. Yeah, I feel a sense of ease. I feel a sense of well-being. Yeah, it feels good. Um, so as I said, the movements, it doesn't necessarily matter what movements they are. Not really. You can make movements up if you want to. You might already be familiar with yoga practices, and there might be a particular movement that you like doing in that. And that might just be something that you choose to do as a practice rather than a set sequence of different yoga poses. It might be that you just pick one. Um, but yeah, like I said, mindful movement can be anything. So now I wanted to share that with you today because I think, sometimes sometimes I think we know what we'd like to do especially in grief, yeah. There's a lot of things that tell us, hey, do this, do this, do this. And here at Ellie's Gift, we're always just about sharing options for people. And what's really lovely about mindful movement is that I always feel like it's a little bit more accessible than me, say, carving out 10 minutes to do a practice that's focused on my breath. Where, see, in my bedroom, I have a little meditation area that I've specifically set up for that purpose. Um, but it's easier for me rather than doing that. Um, I know I've noticed that it's easier for me to drop my awareness into my footsteps while I'm out walking. Instead of like listening to a podcast, just tuning into the birds instead. And instead of, I don't know, scrolling on my phone as I'm walking or ringing somebody up, just tuning into what it's like to walk. And I especially do this in the supermarket because I don't like crowded places. I don't like busy places. I can feel quite overwhelmed and a little bit overstimulated by all the lights and the noise. But what really helps in that situation, especially on the days that grief feels particularly heavy and I might feel fatigued or worn out, is just tuning into my footsteps during my time walking through the supermarket. It's such a simple practice to do, and nobody knows that you're doing it. And it's can just be the difference between just giving yourself a minute just to recenter again, just to kind of come home again, rather than sort of get swept away in the mind, which many of us do. And that, the way our thoughts thinking is a great thing. It is. We need to think. However, sometimes our thoughts are not always our friend. Sometimes the way that our brain works isn't always helpful. So just kind of having these practices to move away from that, to, as I mentioned before, switch the channel can be really helpful. So mindful movement is one of those practices. So I hope this has been an insightful session for you this evening. It's not been a long session. We want to keep our sessions long enough to keep your attention, but short enough not to lose you. Thank you so much for watching. If you can make a donation today to Ellie's Gift, that would be amazing. All the donations get redirected back into our support service, which funds roles like Stacey, who's our hospital liaison person. She goes out and trains NHS staff on the Ellie's Gift app, which supports families through the birth of a baby that's died. And also just things for like the printing cost of materials when people ask us for leaflets and when people ask us for resources, website hosting fees, app fees, videographer fees. There's basically all of that. So any donation is so welcome. And if you're looking to fundraise for somebody this year, maybe Ellie's Gift is someone that you want to choose. I know that we're not a big organization, but we really do need people's support because yeah, it's something that we're really passionate about and we want to keep it alive. We want to keep it going. So thank you so much for your support and I will see you next month. Take care, guys. Bye.